Pay me, pay me, pay me my silver now. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my silver now.
Good morning. Bix Weir, Rotor.com with your morning horn disease. You're sick of chaga coffee. All right, I've been out of the loop for a while, but I'm back in the game. I would like to say go to roadtoruta.com and listen to my discussion with the head of Silver Eagle, the head of the Silver Eagle program at the U.S. Mint. It's a 3-part discussion. It is free at roadtoruta.com. Put your name and email address on the left side to get my continual updates on the end of 180 years of silver price manipulation. That's a long time. So, no, we're not going to see silver at, $35, $50, $51. Wow, amazing. No, the market's going to shut down. We don't have free markets in the United States or anywhere in the world anymore. With the introduction of computers and derivative trading back in the early 1970s, Alan Greenspan was the one who wrote the original computer programs to make the financial system. He blamed himself for Y2K. He also implemented computer trading programs with his boss, and that, by the way, the head of the Fed, a guy named Arthur Burns. So this is nothing new. Computer market price suppression on silver has been going back long before Alan Greenspan got involved in the early 70s. It goes back to the Opium Wars. So when it ends, when silver price suppression ends, you have 180 years of pent-up energy, holding that beach ball under the water for 180 years. How high is it going to blow when the downward pressure is released? It's anybody's guess, but it won't be. You won't see it on the Comex or the LBMA or even on the local news. Most likely, every country in the world will say, "Oh no, we have to ban people from buying silver. It's too important," and then the whole world blows apart because no one's going to buy it. Nobody's buying what the governments are selling anymore. And it's the end of confidence. And when you lose confidence in an unbacked fiat monetary system, that's all you have. You have confidence that the U.S. dollar will maintain its purchasing power. And even though they do absolutely everything to destroy that purchasing power. How many dollar bills, even the physical dollar bills, but electronic blips, known as the U.S. dollar, and the Fed notes, and the derivatives on the Fed notes. How big is that derivative market? If one bank, let's just call them JP Morgan, for example, goes down, the largest derivative holder that we know of, remember, it's only on the OCC data, it's just the big banks. Those are only banks and savings and loans that they're talking about. What about BlackRock? How many derivatives does BlackRock have? Massive amounts. We're talking 2.3 quadrillion is my guess. Now, people will say, well, no, they cancel each other out. They do. A lot of them do cancel each other out because one entity will take on a credit. Let's just talk credit default swaps. Let's say JP Morgan does a deal with a shaky credit, but they throw a credit default swap on there so that if they lose their money, they pay up front, they lose that money, whoever they bought that credit default swap from pays them their balance or whatever, however much they insured. So they think they're off the hook. But that person who, the entity that issued the credit default swap to JP Morgan, they have to stay in business too. So what do? They go find a cheaper credit default swap and think they canceled their credit default swap out. So they're playing both sides of the game, and you multiply this by tens of millions, and you understand the problem. All it takes is one break in that chain link for JP Morgan to lose on their credit default swap after the entity they lent money to, which they never should have, went belly up. That's the world we're going to come into. And then when JP Morgan goes, that's the biggest bank in the world, the most criminal. How could JP Morgan go? Very easily. They were knee-deep in Bernie Madoff, like knee-deep, the only bank of Bernie Madoff. And it wasn't a $50 billion Ponzi scheme. It was $500 billion, and it wasn't a Ponzi scheme. The second floor of Bernie Madoff was the computer trading floor. It was the money machine for the riggers to pay off everybody in Washington, everybody in Israel. Yes, it was a huge operation, shall we say. But that's not it. The other guy, the counterpart of Bernie Madoff, is Vinny Viola. Vinny Viola of Virtu Financial, the worst name ever. It used to be called EWT LLC. Runs the computer trading programs for pretty much all the exchanges. That's that company that never had a loss in like 5 years straight. Computer price rigging is all powerful. All powerful. Until it breaks, and then everything goes. That's why in Cliff High's data, he has Reggie Middleton's Veritasium, a peer-to-peer transaction protocol in a crypto, or at least in the intellectual property of Reggie Middleton. Cliff's data shows the U.S. government going to Reggie and saying, help us. Our markets have all been destroyed. We need to implement peer-to-peer transactions. We gave you the patent for a reason, not just for nothing. Yes, we were assholes and completely criminal at the SEC, but the SEC has since disbanded. Because you don't need the SEC if you're doing peer-to-peer transactions. We'll see. It'll be a while. I don't know that it will be all that long for Veritasium. Again, they don't have to use the Veritasium token, and they won't use the Veritasium token unless the U.S. government that has on hold 98 million tokens of the 100 million that were created, they still have these tokens on hold. When they busted Reggie, I don't know how long ago, for something ridiculous. Oh, we're working with you, but they went around his back to scuttle his deal at the Jamaican Stock Exchange and at the German Stock Exchange. Everybody was ready to go a few years back to a new system, but the banks would have lost. So the SEC, we know how corrupt the SEC is. I love that everybody in crypto is not running away. The only people who say cryptos are dead are those who never, ever invested in it. Cryptos are here for the long term, my friends. Long term. Yes, Gary Gensler can scream and shout and yell, crypto is bad, it's money laundering. And you know how much money is laundered through the unbacked fiat monetary system? 1,000 times what is laundered in cryptos. 10,000 times. Hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars. But because they control who gets to see what, you don't get to see that. This is an entire control mechanism of the entire system. All right, let's talk silver. I've been out of the game for a while. The first thing I checked is my old steadies, and wow, we're coming to the end of a silver price delivery month on the Comex. End of a delivery month for June. Now, June is not a delivery month. July is a delivery month. So you should expect very little silver to be delivered in June. And that's exactly what we see. Very little silver. But here's the deal. Only 423 contracts have been delivered. April had 388, which is crazy. That's the lowest ever. 423, this is 2 million ounces of silver. But here's what's going on. For the June delivery month, it is important. Why? Because you go over to, hey, what's left to deliver? 431 contracts. What? Wait, there have been 423, so more than half of the contracts of this tiny month still haven't delivered at the end of the month. That's unheard of. It's always, within the first 3 or 4 days, the majority of the contracts are delivered. This is 2 million ounces just sitting there. If they had the silver, somebody was paying storage fees and insurance and all that for the rest of the delivery. Unless they don't have it. If they don't have it, it's 2 million ounces they can't deliver on, which is crazy. Now, I'm sure it will come out of JP Morgan, because if you look at who is taking delivery, as the big banks get out of this game, nobody's in the Comex. There are so few entities that trade on the Comex. It's unbelievable. And they make you think that, there's thousands of traders and thousands of different companies trading on the Comex. It's not true. It's the big lie. 99.9% of the trades that happen on the Comex are the criminal bankers. Absolutely. Trading with Virtu Financial, an authorized participant of SLV, by the way. Why would a computer trading firm, that's all they do, they've never taken delivery of a silver contract, why would they be in the Comex silver space? To facilitate trading, yeah, right. Why would they be an authorized participant of SLV, a physical silver ETF? Authorized participants, only thing they do is redeem baskets of silver and add baskets of silver. Why would a computer trading company be that? Inquiring minds want to know. So, for example, there's still literally, here's 400 million ounces of silver, derivative silver traded yesterday or Friday. 400 million ounces. Does anybody ask who's doing the trading? What if I were to tell you 99.9% of that is just a handful of banks, maybe 10 maximum entities, 10 entities. This is not a real market. This is a fake joke of a market. So what do we got? All kinds of derivatives happening on the July contract, exchange for physical, where they take their contracts here because they know they can't find, this would be a 5 million ounce delivery, exchange for physical. They know the Comex doesn't have it. They can't even deliver the 400 and how many left? 431 that are left, which is a little over 2 million ounces. They can't do that. So they got to send it all the way over to England. Electronic blip. Boop. Deliver it in England. And then where's it go? China, India, you name it. So yeah, let's look at who these criminals are because they're right here. Oh, by the way, did you see the delivery for the month of June? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. That's it. Nothing has been delivered. I'd say 4 days because this was only 2 contracts. In the first 4 days of the June delivery month, which is not a silver delivery month, but you can still take delivery. In the first 4 days, everything that has been delivered was delivered. And there's still half of these to go, more than half. So we got like three or four more days left before the June delivery or July delivery month kicks in. And July delivery month is traditionally one of the silver delivery months. So there's a lot of silver receipts, trading hands, inventories going up and down and all over the place. This is the end game for silver, my friends. Now what the CME and the silver riggers are trying to do is remove the banks and put someone else there, like BlackRock, for example, because they don't have to report to anybody. But it's not going so well for them. And BlackRock, with all their lousy investments, good night. They are gone. I can't tell you when. They are so criminal, just almost as criminal as our fake government. It's insane. It is insane. We've hit peak insanity. So yeah, that's where we stand. Who are these entities? Of the 423 contracts, the big player is obviously JP Morgan customers. Now, JP Morgan only has a couple months left, 3 months left of their deferred prosecution agreement. That's why I'm like, everybody look towards September. September is the most likely time that chaos hits in the world, but mainly in the silver market, because by September, I think it's September 20th, the deferred prosecution agreement expires. Now, JP Morgan has literally broken that agreement. They've been busted for rigging silver in the communications side of things. There's 3 or 4 things that JP Morgan has done since the DPA was put in place that the DOJ can say, you violated the DPA. We're bringing back all the charges for RICO charges for silver price manipulation and gold and everything else. I mean, it's such a... Will Jamie Dimon even be there still? All these revelations coming out. Jamie Dimon claiming he didn't even know, barely knew Jeffrey Epstein, but all... Did you hear JP Morgan lost 41 million emails? What? But the problem is, if a company deletes all these emails because they know they're in shit, and they said, "Oh, it was an accident." That's what JP Morgan's claiming. That doesn't stop who they sent the emails to, right? It just stops one side. All the internal emails are lost. Yeah, the criminals, they already did that. Why isn't anybody in jail yet? Why isn't Jamie Dimon in jail for destroying evidence after the fact? That's another violation of the deferred prosecution agreement. So the DOJ, I believe, at some point will say, JP Morgan, you violated the DPA. We go back to the settlement of $920 billion, which people think they didn't even pay. I think they did pay it, only because the same year that they were supposed to pay it, they booked a $1 billion gain in gold and silver, in the gold and silver book. That came out in the court hearing. And that's 20 times what they usually book for gold and silver. I mean, it's profitable. Don't get me wrong. They have, any gold and silver they have it at cheap. But they are such a criminal company. And JP Morgan, if Jamie Dimon goes, so goes JP Morgan, so goes all the derivative bubble. Boom, game over. I think that's where we're headed. Hang on tight. Get your physical silver in your hand. By the way, lots of interesting stuff coming out of China. Peak China Silver, the looming extinction event. China consumes a hell of a lot of silver. And they're also a silver producer, usually an importer of silver. But it gets a little tricky because China bought out a lot of the silver processors. So they take their doré, their sludge of silver, over to the processor, and they make the silver bars and rounds and all that. China bought out a lot of those businesses, so all the silver goes to China before it goes to other places. But it's interesting that there are a lot of Chinese articles now coming out about the silver manipulation in the Western world. So ultimately, what will be the thing that breaks the back of these criminals? Probably China. Now, we know India is buying a boatload, literally. And India and China are the two most populated countries in the world. So when they know, oh my God, have you heard the silver story? It's truthfully, I read through this article. It's the same stuff we've been screaming about. The official numbers show us running out of silver in 20 years. The world running out of silver in 20 years. You might think 20 years is a long time. I've been in the silver game for over 20 years. It's not that long. You blink and it's gone. You see all the criminality going on. It's insane. You'd think I'd give up after 20 years. No. I believe in free markets. I believe free markets are the only way to get back to freedom. And we are going to get back to freedom. We are going to take out the criminals that have controlled our lives for so long. The bad guys, the controllers, as Dick Allgaier calls them. We are going to take them out. We are going to win. We are winning. And it's not about what happens. It's about what happens after the crash. We know all the markets are completely destroyed. They're all fake. They're being held up with Scotch tape. They're being held up with $2.5 quadrillion worth of derivatives. And JP Morgan just monsterly increased its derivative position. Same with everybody, especially B of A. So this is the end game. The explosion in derivative numbers, which they did explode much, much higher in the fourth quarter of last year. Or is it the first quarter? I don't know. I think it's delayed about half a year. Massive, massive increases. And that's what they use to hold the market together. Don't look for Scotch tape. Look for derivatives. And we saw them. So this is the end game. You should have your silver already in your possession. Is it too late? I don't know. Go to your local silver dealer. Say, hey, what can I get? Is there anything left I can get? It was not going to be much. But the dealers still have it. And as we've seen many times, this stuff disappears. Now, we do have a 4-day weekend coming up next week, right? And 4th of July being my birthday, but also being part of that. If the good guys are going to make their move and take out the criminals in the silver rigging, I'd say there's two most likely dates. Number one would be the 4th of July weekend. And watch the banks go down and literally shut down. But that would be the end of this week. Friday is the last day of the quarter. The FDIC already said, oh my God, the second quarter is going to be a nightmare. How many bank deposits have left the banks now? Too many to count. So get ready for absolute craziness. The second date is September 11th. For obvious reasons, the bad guys attacked us on September 11th, and the good guys attacked the bad guys on September 11th, 2008, when they pulled out $500 billion out of the money market funds. And then the U.S. went into chaos and voted whether or not to bail out the banks. Now, the first vote came up, no, we're not going to bail out the banks, and the stock market dropped by 50%, and everyone went, oh my God! And then they printed trillions of dollars. They gave the banks billions, but the banks turned them up 10 to 1 and lend it out and use it to steal the rest of your money. So the banks came out on top again. Will that happen again? Will Congress vote to bail out the system again? I think by that time, September 11th and then September 20th would be the JP Morgan end of the DPA, which is a very interesting time as well. There's just so much going on. I'm excited. I'm a hodler of silver and the good cryptos. The only people saying cryptos are dead are the same people who've been saying cryptos are dead since the beginning of cryptos. Everybody else is like, is that BlackRock starting a Bitcoin ETF and getting it approved? Because obviously Gary Gensler did all his shit to destroy the price of cryptos. And yeah, there was a bunch of fraud. Absolutely. There's a hell of a lot more fraud in the unbacked fiat monetary system, in his system. Yes, Gary Gensler, the same guy who signed off on the Steele dossier, he should be in jail. Is he in jail? Maybe. We don't know. We don't know what's real and what's fake anymore. Real interesting post on Twitter. This is the budget for the fiscal year 2023. This was written, part of the budget applied for in April. This is April 2022. This is an appropriation for these things, sono buoys. Now, these are things they drop into the ocean to detect submarines and things like that. And there's tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of these that the U.S. military has. And they use them to detect where all the submarines are. But they use a lot of silver, supposedly, because this is an official document. Listen to what the U.S. government is saying as of April 2022. As of fiscal year 2021, ANSQ 101B unit cost increase as a result of the silver shortage at the Defense Logistics Agency, the DLA, Precious Metal Recovery Program. Historically, the program procured silver through the DLA for the sono buoys variant at $3.97 per ounce. Does that sound like government accounting? In fiscal year 2021, the DLA's surplus was exhausted. So they're saying the Defense Logistics Agency, the agency that buys all the stuff to make the stuff to create wars, surplus was exhausted in silver. And listen to this. This is your government, all you living in the United States. Due to the silver scarcity, program is procuring silver at a market rate of $30 per troy ounce. Program is pursuing mitigation strategies with vendors to replace the silver requirement with lithium batteries for incorporation into the buoy for next year. There's so many things wrong with this statement. First of all, silver hasn't been at $30 since at least 10 years. Why is the Defense Department buying silver at $30 per troy ounce in April of 2022? Are they actually doing what they need to do, buy silver at whatever they can get the price at? What does that remind you of? Yes, the U.S. Mint. The U.S. Mint should be paying $30 an ounce for the silver blanks. But they are not. They are instructing their people within the mint not to make silver eagles to meet demand. Exactly the opposite of what Congress has mandated by law. Again, go to roadtoroota.com, listen to the discussion and the interview. All kinds of things. They admit that they are not living up to the law. By the way, when you hear that word allocation, the mint's on allocation for silver eagles. That it means exactly what it says. They are not living up to the law and providing silver to meet demand. That is illegal. Allocation of silver eagles is completely illegal. So if the U.S. Department of Defense, Defense Logistics Agency, doesn't have any more silver and they have to go buy it from the open market, basically the U.S. government is saying that silver, the real price of silver, is at least $30 an ounce. That's what they're paying for. It says it right here. Market rate is $30 per ounce, and it hasn't been $30 per ounce in 10 years. But you can get it if you pay $30 an ounce, absolutely. And how important is defense against nuclear submarines? It's pretty damn important. I think the most interesting thing about this, because it doesn't say how much silver is being used, and this is just one item, the sonobuoy. That's it. That's all. We don't know how many ounces of silver per sonobuoy, but it's estimated there's over 100,000 sonobuoys that have been made. I don't know how much they make every year. But the big thing is the Defense Logistics Agency that was providing all that silver is now out of silver. Another warehouse that's emptied of silver. So we're at the end game, my friends. At Road to Ruta, we still have silver Ruta coins left. I don't know how much longer we will be selling them. If silver blows by $30, I don't think there's any stop in silver, and that's when I'm going to pull the plug on this giveaway. The coolest coin ever. It's going to be a huge collector's item if you ask me. It's a silver Ruta Lives coin, each individually numbered and painted, and here's how we make it. I want to stress to everybody, get your assets in your own possession now. There is no time to wait. Your friends and family, you can't help them. If they don't understand what's going on right now, you cannot help them. Now, they're going to come to you when things start falling apart, and they're going to say, oh my God, how did you know? How did you know the system was going to fall apart? How did you know I wasn't be able to use my ATM? How did you know? Yes, they're going to be coming to you, not you yelling it from the rooftops. And all you got to say is, I've been screaming this for 20 years. I've been screaming it for 5 years. I've been screaming it for 10 minutes. I don't care how long you've understood. The fact is you understand now. And you can help your friends out, probably. When the shit falls down, you're going to be the guy or the girl who knew what was going on, and you're going to be prepared. Now, they'll come mooching and say, oh, I'm going to stay with you because you got some water and dried food and gold and silver, and you're fine. You're not fine, but the whole world's a mess. So they're going to be coming to you. Just be ready. Be nice. Don't say I told you so. Just say, hey, here's what you do next. You didn't listen to me before. Listen to me now. That's it. Bix Weir, roadtoruta.com. I'll talk to you later.